Today I'm going to show you how to make some quick and easy hot glue and foam portals. Now, these portals might not take you to aperture science, but they'll sure make us glad. Get it? Glad us, you know what I'm saying? Anywho, here's how to make a portal to the ninth plane of hell. So I wanted to make something that I could do in an afternoon with a few new techniques that I learned to make things go really quickly. So this one is really simple, really easy. All you need is some foam and some hot glue. If you want to paint them, great. We're going to use a few different sets. One with these kind of crystal clear hot glue sets, and one that glows in the dark. This glow in the dark one was like $2, so I figured I'd make a set of those too. The first portal I'm making is going to be circular, so I found a plastic little packaging top that was about the size circle that I wanted, and I hot glued it down onto the foam. I'm just taking off some extra of the foam so that I can get one lined up to about a 3x3 inch portal. That's kind of what I'm looking for here. So I set my prox on to 3 inches by 3 inches. You could definitely cut this out with a knife. Actually, the more jagged the better. I cut 2 little entry point lines for where the bottom of my portal is going to be, and I run my prox-on wire along this, and being just as rough as I want to be, because I want this to look like it was made out of stone. If I wanted it to look a little bit more pristine, like somebody really carved these to make them look good over time, I would do that, but I wanted this to almost look like it was pulled out of a cave. Then I make a bunch of rectangular long pieces that are all 3/4 inch square by 3 inches tall. 3 inches is kind of the width that I'm going for here because it's going to fit into this new project that I'm doing later. Now I want 2 of these to be mirrors of each other, so I decided to stack them on top of each other and just cut off random pieces. These ones are going to leave kind of a gap portal, almost like these 2 stones were pulled apart and a portal just happened to come out, and that's what I wanted. So I set some parchment paper down because I'm going to start doing some more hot gluing, and the third portal I'm doing is just kind of a straight up arch. It's just 3 of those bricks laid on top of each other, 2 cut off to be a little bit shorter so that the max height is still 3 inches. Now, I want some runes inscribed to some of these, so I take a pen and kind of gouge into it. I'm not just drawing onto there, I'm actually pushing pretty hard so that the pen gouges into the foam. This way, the runes will kind of be divoted into the stone. Now, the first one I did pretty lightly because I want that to be like out of a cave. These, I want to be like pillars were found there, so I dig really deep into them so that those runes definitely will show up after I do the painting and the wash, right? I'm not drawing anything in particular, I'm just drawing what I think might look like arcane or demonic symbols depending on which pillar I'm doing. Now we need to make some of that Black Magic Craft, Modge Podge, and black paint style setup because these need to be protected. They're really small and we're going to toss them around a lot, so we want to make sure that they have a good solid surface to them and not just foam that can easily be pushed in and dented. I've talked about this a bunch of times, so I'm not going to show this for very long. Now, this is my wife's hairdryer. Don't judge me for the color, but it's what works for me because this is the new technique that we're really going to focus on, which is after you're done with this stuff and all the painting that you do, just go over it with a hairdryer. You don't have to wait days. You can dry it really quick. All acrylic paint is just acrylic and water. As soon as the water evaporates, it's painted, so you can really finish, well, at least the paint portion at least, in maybe about an hour, because as soon as you're done painting, just hair dry it out and then it's done. It takes maybe 5 minutes to re-hair dry them. Now, these are the colors we're going to use for our dry brushing, which is white, antique white, and gray, just a really light gray. Now, I'm only doing one of the dry brushes now. I'm doing the just straight kind of antique white, which is more of a cream or brown white because I want to have some earthy tones in it as well. I go over all of them with just a quick little dry brush, and then afterwards I take the hair dryer and dry it off. But now we're going to use some homemade black wash, which is just water, black paint, a little bit of dish soap, a little bit of green paint, a little bit of brown paint, and I use this to put a wash over them. This one, I would give maybe 15 minutes of just sitting there time before you do take the hairdryer to this one, because the hairdryer will push some of the water out of some of the crevices. After about 15 minutes, you should be fine, so just go ahead and hit it with the hairdryer. Then you're free to move on to the real dry brushing. For the real dry brushing, I go back to that kind of cream color. I also do a light gray and a white on some of the ones where I want there to be white, like this little circular one. But now we're going to get down to the meat of the video with these crystal clear hot glue ones. Now I've got the parchment paper down because hot glue won't stick to it, and I just start pushing the pillar down. Make sure you do this or else the hot glue might push it up, and totally gunk this thing up with hot glue. It's going to take maybe 5 or 6 sticks to really get a nice thick portal that won't break over time. I completely fill this up, but focus on hitting those edges first so that it can kind of stick to the portal and then to the ground. So again, absolutely fill this thing up. The one thing that you really don't want on here is for it to be too thin. The crystal clear will take care of the transparency. If it's too thin though, it will probably fall apart over time. Now I'm doing something that I mimicked on the fire effects that I did, which is taking the hot glue as it's drying and kind of pulling up with the hot glue. So you don't just get a puddle of clear hot glue. You get kind of effects that look like flame or portals, right? With the spell effects moving, which is really what we want out of this. Now I thought this portal would be extremely tricky, but it's actually not all that bad. As long as you hold one side down, glue it, and then hold the other side down exactly where you want it and glue it. I want mine to fit in a 3x3 area. It's fine, they glue to themselves. It doesn't need a top and a bottom support like I would think that it does. The hot glue provides that support because it's kind of sticking to itself from all sides. So as long as it has anchor points, you're good to go. So as you start hot gluing them down, make sure the hot glue will stick to both of the sides and then push both of them down so that they stay the exact distance away that you want them. After a while, you don't have to really worry about it. You can just kind of go to town. And then I do the same thing that I did on the other portal and with the fire spell effects and start picking up. Now we're going to work on the glow in the dark one. This one is just going to be used with our glow in the dark hot glue sticks. That's it. It's just the same as the other ones. I'm doing the arch on here and I kind of hold the arch together. And this one I actually pull the hot glue up the side so it looks like the glow in the darkness will be escaping out the sides of it, right? So let your hot glue cool for maybe like 10 minutes and then it'll peel right off the parchment. I learned this next one from Luke's apps, which is just using heavy gel medium gloss, and it kind of functions like hot glue except it stays a little bit more hard and it gives a little bit more structural integrity to the hot glue that we're using. So I pour a bunch of it out and use the barest amount of this kind of pool blue paint and some Nagaroth Night purple to color the portals. Now for the one that looks like it's coming straight out of a cave, I use that pool blue and just kind of dab it on there and pick up. Do the same thing you would with the hot glue to get the flame effects or the kind of hot glue portal effect that looks like a spell effect, because if you don't, you're going to get those blue pools and we don't want that. I also take a lot of the blue and go up the sides of the stone so it looks like it's pulling energy and spell effects out the side of the stone, and I do it on the back too because I don't want to leave that flat. So take the barest amount of your colors, mix them up with the Acrylic Gel Medium gloss, god that's hard to say, and just go to town with it. I do it the same thing on this one that's the two stones that look like they were pulled apart or a portal was just kind of made between two pillars that happened to be there rather than the kind of open stone. And look at that. We're done. This really is a super quick and super easy just kind of afternoon project, and it worked fine for me. As soon as you set the hot glue out to dry, you're good, or if you want to add that gel base, you can also do that and just leave it overnight and you get that awesome transparency-ness and it just looks fantastic. But I know what you're asking is, what about the glow in the dark portal? And you know what? Ask and you shall receive. Okay, Google, turn the lights off. Now, the camera does it no justice. This is actually pretty darn bright, but for some reason the camera has a super duper hard time picking it up. I had to turn on all the see in the most dark that I possibly can settings. This looks really good in person, and like you can see some of the glowing coming up out of the edges, and it looks like ghosts are like trying to escape out of a portal. I love it. This is my favorite one, but you know, if you're just looking at it without the glow in the dark, it doesn't look all that impressive. Either way, I think they came out great. I'm definitely going to be using them on my game board. I'm definitely going to be using them on that upcoming project. And I just think that they're going to have a ton of uses within any game that you want to play, let alone Dungeons & Dragons. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If this is something that you like, maybe consider subscribing or tell me what you might want to see in the future. And I'll try and maybe do some of your ideas. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you for taking the time, and you have a good day.